Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Red Pill News. As always, I'm your host, Zach Payne, the corruption detector, and today we're going to be learning about the events unfolding right now in New York City. Apparently, a maniac dressed as an MTA worker donned a gas mask, set off a smoke bomb, and began to unload bullets into the unsuspecting crowd aboard one of the trains as it was rolling down the tracks. Now, there are details that are still emerging. I have several clips of video just immediately after and during the attack. We're going to take a look at all of those in just a moment. But please sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, pray for the people of New York City, and we'll be right back after the break. Well, considering the international situation happening right now between Russia and Ukraine, and of course, the increased pressure that the United States government is putting on Russia, it's no surprise that the FBI is now warning the American people and other governments of the world that Russia may well engage in cyber attacks against infrastructure here in our country. In fact, it's pretty safe to assume that the government is always expecting Russia to engage in cyber attacks both on personal individuals and infrastructure. They've issued public warnings to both companies and individuals that it's time to beef up your own cyber infrastructure security. Now, whether this happens or not, this is exactly why I recommend Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield helps keep you and your browsing history anonymous online. Virtual Shield helps protect your online identity by keeping your browsing activity hidden from internet service providers, hackers, big tech, and foreign countries. When I have Virtual Shield on, nobody can see what I'm doing online except for me. And if you've been looking for a way to browse the internet anonymously, you're gonna love Virtual Shield. And right now, they're offering 50% off to all my subscribers for life. That's right, 50% off to every single one of you watching this right now. Plus, you get a 30-day free trial. All you have to do is go to this special website, virtualshield.com/redpill78. Once again, that's virtualshield.com/redpill78. You can click the link below. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. So right now, police in New York City are currently seeking a black male around 5'5" tall. He was last seen wearing a gas mask and wearing a green construction-type MTA vest, as well as a gray sweatshirt underneath that. This is the man they believe injured at least 29 people in Brooklyn on the subway as it was rolling down the tracks underground. There were also undetonated explosive devices that were found there. In the midst of the havoc, he detonated a smoke bomb or a smoke grenade of some type. I don't know if the undetonated explosive devices are similar to that, or if these are another type of bomb that he simply never got to pop off. But this man was disguised as an MTA worker, and he unleashed the bloody hell on the travelers of the Brooklyn subway train early this morning during the rush hour. 29 people include at least 10 people who were shot, and the smoke grenade was undoubtedly some type of cover, not only heightening the tension of the people on the car, heightening the confusion, but allowing him to hide in the cover of that smoke and get his weapons out and begin unloading on people. Now, in the chaos, he left behind his Glock and 2 extended ammunition magazines that were recovered by police. It looks like the gun itself jammed, and so that's why he was only able to shoot as many people as he did. With as many bullets as he brought and the presence of additional explosive devices, it's pretty certain to say that he intended to do a lot more damage. I'm going to show you several clips of video, and I want to warn everybody right now, some of it is pretty disturbing. First, I'm going to show you a video from inside the car as it was rolling down the tracks. The footage includes video of a man attempting to escape the subway train where the perpetrator had set off the smoke grenade and can be heard, I believe, shooting bullets into the crowd. Let's take a listen.
These are the lines that flew thy way, but oh, that flew thy great and glory brighter be, thy fair difficulties, foul overthrows of salvages.
So pretty disturbing stuff. That guy was obviously afraid for his life. He was trying to get out of the subway car into the next one. I'm kind of wondering why not a single person on the train would have thought to go up there and open the door for him. You know, whatever. I guess people in New York City, who knows what's going to happen? They've gone through hell in the past, so I'm not going to hold it against anybody. But this guy is still out there. He got away. However, I think it's not going to be too long before they find him. Those subways are crawling with cameras. They've got CCTV cameras all over the place in New York, and I'm pretty certain they have sophisticated surveillance equipment that could also track who was on that platform in terms of their phone and digital device identifiers. It happened this morning around 8:24 a.m. as the train was rolling into 36th Street Station in Sunset Park. NYPD Commissioner Keechant Sue had this to say. He said an individual on that train donned what appeared to be a gas mask. He then took a canister out of his bag and opened it. The train at that time began to fill with smoke. He then opened fire, striking multiple people on the subway and on the platform. Now let's take a look at some footage taken from the platform as the train rolls into the station and people begin to stream out of the train car.
Prey upon the gay community more than heterosexuals prey upon the opposite sex. As a matter of fact, these gay predators demand that they be let out of their closet. They seem bent on taking over government positions backed up with laws made by men in back dresses. Not too long ago, these angry young men cross were secluded within their religious societies. Mr. of the Ammon, Oops, Mona, Star Wild, Oops, Monastery. Now tell me, what healthy young male would want to sign his life into an all-male society of brotherly love? One who loved men, of course. He could throw away all those silly clothes and wear a dress like he always wanted. Mind you, it was the same as all the other boys. But then, in the order, they do like to be uniform. Uni meaning the Sanskrit word for vagina. So everybody, mimic a vagina.
All right, so that footage was actually taken by a person who was on the subway car. And as soon as the doors open, you can see them stream out. They watch all of these other people getting out from the adjacent exit. And you can see the smoke pouring out. You see people begin to attempt to stand. There was a couple of people who were unable to do so. They collapsed onto the subway car. And you can see that there are a number of individuals who were shot. Apparently, 10 people were shot. It's a fairly gruesome incident inside that subway car. There is a lot of blood. At least 5 of those people are in critical but stable condition. We have some people who experienced smoke inhalations, but none of those injured has any life-threatening injuries, so thank God for that. There was, however, a pregnant woman who was among those that were hospitalized, and there were a number of injured individuals who ended up walking themselves to the hospital. So it sounds like people filed out of that train. They immediately started scattering everywhere. Hopefully, every single person who was on that subway car was able to give a statement to the NYPD because this guy needs to be caught sooner rather than later. Now, anytime we have an incident such as this, I know that there are going to be people who will critique it, declaring that maybe it's real, maybe it's not. If you have anything specific that you see in this footage or in the images, by all means, please reach out to me. You know that I am extremely interested in determining what exactly happened, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And obviously, if we're crowding this type of an investigation, I think that's all the better. As I said, they also discovered after the police arrived the jammed gun, a couple of extended magazines. It looks like he also had a hatchet, a can of pepper spray. He had the 2 gas canisters, and then it looks like the explosives were a bag full of fireworks, as well as another satchel in what appeared to be BB pellets. So perhaps he was hoping to make some type of improvised explosive device using the fireworks and then the BB pellets. They said that the gun most likely does belong to the suspect, so it doesn't sound like they've been able to connect it to anyone else, and that obviously they think that the only reason more people didn't get hurt and people certainly didn't die is because the gun itself jammed and he was unable to continue shooting people. There are no specific specific motives noted yet. The victims are people ranging from a variety of different ages to a number of different racial and ethnic backgrounds. So it doesn't appear to be a targeted hit on any one group in particular, although I will say there were quite a few Asian people that I saw there on the platform, and as this is a black assailant that they're looking for, this could, however, tie into the Asian attacks that we've seen all over New York City. Now, it appears that there may have been additional items that were collected because this article insinuates that there may be other things found on the train that could have belonged to the assailant. And then the FDNY, the fire department there, said that they found several undetonated devices at the 36th Street station. So that sounds like these explosive devices were found outside of the train car. There are no other additional explosive devices that have been found either on the train, on the platform, or at any other stations. Just looking at this image, that looks like real blood to me. Okay, there is a look to real blood. It has almost kind of a milky look to it that's different from the way that stage blood looks. Stage blood looks red, but it's kind of clear. It's almost as if they have added food coloring to corn syrup, but this has the look of real blood to me. Here is another image from a different frame of one of the videos. If I'm not mistaken, you can see that as people were coming out, the blood was trailing behind them. And then we also have some video footage of a man who looks to have been shot in the stomach, who was unable to leave the train car. Interesting that the number 13 is right there. I don't know if this is the number 13, but the 36th Street station, 36. I think that's a pretty strange coincidence right there, 666. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video of the man getting medical attention inside the train car.
Daughter of Yo. Many of those who took care of him were eunuchs, men who had been castrated as boys to make them more appealing to adult predators. Oh man, the movie, oh man, what was that movie about? The boy in Bombay who raised Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Slumdog movie. Man, that was about these.
Now, we don't know how many rounds the assailant got off, but from the description from witnesses that were there on the train, there were many rounds of bullets that were fired. It was unfortunately just these people who ended up getting shot. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the witness accounts right now. First here from a young man named Gaba Samin, a 16-year-old who was on his way to class. He said, they just started yelling. They told us to switch to the R. That would be another train. Everyone got on, including a guy who got shot. He hobbled on. Here we have another image from that same video that we showed earlier in the show. One witness actually described the suspect as wearing an orange vest and a gas mask. That kind of is a little bit different from the description the police are offering, which is a green vest and a gas mask. We can also see here on the train, it says 5551. And if you add 1 to each of those fives, then you get 666 again. That is a very interesting coincidence. And we have several more witnesses there that gave descriptions of what happened. A woman named Claire said there was like lots of them. I don't even know how many. That's in reference to the number of bullets she saw. She said she saw the suspect drop some kind of cylinder that sparked at the top. That must have been the smoke grenade. She said, I thought he was an MTA worker at first. The NYPD's bomb squad did arrive at the scene, and they are currently investigating. They were scouring the MTA surveillance footage to see if they can identify the suspect. However, they say that the cameras on this station's platforms and turnstiles haven't been working since Friday. Well, isn't that a coincidence as well? Now, it sounds like the suspect was already on the train after having entered from another location, so obviously there's a possibility they could get video footage from that location. However, it's quite likely that perhaps he came into the train wearing something else and then put his disguise on while he was on there. But there is still a possibility we could get some surveillance footage showing him getting onto the train, entering another station, perhaps actually exiting that station and walking outside. There have been requests from the police to clearly identify anyone that was on that train and anyone there who was on the platform, so that if they can get a description of this guy, they can find out who he is and rule out any of the people who were victims on the train. Here we have some images of people being led out to the ambulances so that they can be taken to the hospital. Here is actually an image of one of the people who walked away from the scene. Apparently she walked into the 72nd precinct on 4th Avenue and was then taken to an ambulance. Here are some additional people who look to have been on the train. I don't know if they're exhausted, they're just crying, or if they were injured as well. Mayor Eric Adams has, of course, commented on the situation. We'll take a look at his statement in just a moment. There was, however, a press conference that was held with Governor Kathy Hochul. She said, "We say no more mass shootings, no more disrupting lives, no more creating heartbreak for people just trying to live their lives as normal New Yorkers. It has to end, and it ends now." She continued, "We are sick and tired of reading headlines about crime, whether mass shootings or the loss of a teenage girl or a 13-year-old. It has to stop." And she continued, adding, she is committing the full resources of the state to cut down on crime. It's too bad, however, that New York City has already let go of a number of police officers, ended funding for several very important branches, perhaps the branch that would have been able to catch this man if he was walking around with an illegal gun. I highly doubt this man was legally carrying a firearm. People with sound mind and a real reason to carry and own a firearm do not end up on a subway car shooting as many people as they possibly can. I also think it's extremely interesting that this story breaks almost immediately after the news that the lieutenant governor of New York State was just indicted on money laundering, bribery, and a number of other charges. He's facing 20 years in prison. Now, it looks like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is currently isolated with COVID, but he's been briefed on the incident, and he said that he's made all of the city's resources available as the investigation continues. Let me just repeat, all of the city's limited resources, because the city of New York has partially defunded the police department. He said, "While we gather more information, we ask New Yorkers to stay away from this area for their safety and so that first responders can help those in need and investigate." Schools in the area have been shut down. Kids have been asked to stay sheltered in place. If we take a look at this map, you can see Brooklyn over here to the right, and then Sunset Park is where the 36th Street subway station is located. Now, as coverage of this incident is constantly evolving, we have had additional people coming forward, giving their witness accounts, speaking about the mayhem and the havoc. I do have what appears to be at least one other individual that was taken to the hospital. So this report here is showing that 11 people are hospitalized currently. But essentially, the man started shooting after setting off that smoke bomb. There was havoc. There was just, incredible confusion. The subway door opened, smoke and bloody people ended up rushing out, and it really was the definition of a trauma-based event. This is the exact kind of thing that we see play out when the deep state wants something very important to go away from the news, when they want people to stop paying attention to something that is damaging to the deep state. Unfortunately, something like this happens. And I just want to go back to the idea of false flag events and incidents that are created like this. I think that too often people will look at a situation and they'll say it was staged, it was fake, and so therefore nothing really happened. I think that it is completely possible for incidents to be staged, i.e. someone plans it ahead of time and they deploy it whenever they need it to hit the news waves. But that doesn't mean that people aren't actually being injured and that people aren't actually being killed. I think that those two things are not mutually exclusive. I think that we can have staged events. I think that we can have, horrific mass casualty events like this that are actually people dying and innocent people being led to slaughter. At the same time, I think it's possible that they can also be designed to pull people's attention away from something like the lieutenant governor of New York being indicted on horrific crimes. And so as a result, we're going to have to take a look at that. All right, so what do we have here? Well, we have the lieutenant governor of New York State being arrested for federal corruption charges. Apparently, there's been an investigation that's been ongoing for quite some time. So it's very possible that a number of people were aware that Democrat New York Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin was going to be arrested this morning. Now, all we know is that he was arrested this morning. We don't know what time that happened. But this report showing this on NBC New York was from 9:29 a.m. So this was just about an hour after this event took place on the 36th Street subway platform. So, according to NBC New York, Brian Benjamin actually turned himself in this morning, and the charges were related to campaign finance fraud from when he was running for city comptroller. Apparently, he had some type of a scheme cooked up where in order to get campaign donations, he would end up making sure that people received very lucrative grants. He's going to be appearing in a Manhattan federal court later today. And of course, Kathy Hochul's office has not commented on this one in the same way she commented on some maniac blowing away a bunch of people on the subway. This investigation was done by the FBI, so you may be surprised to know that the FBI is going after high-ranking Democrats, but it's as a result of Benjamin knowingly engaging in a campaign finance fraud scheme. Now, subpoenas were issued in connection with the investigation, and it's very possible that other people in New York, prominent Democrats and business leaders, might be drawn into the investigation as well. Basically, Benjamin doled out state money to contributors of his campaign, to projects and people that he felt deserved the money, and the only qualification was that they give him enough money. So this is definitely fraud. It's not only bribery, but it's also wire fraud, it's conspiracy, and it's falsification of records. You see, when he was being interviewed for the lieutenant governor position by now Governor Kathy Hochul and her team, he lied about engaging in any activity like this. So the charges are going to mount up for Mr. Benjamin here. And as I said, he faces as little as 5 years in prison, but up to 20 years in prison. And I hope that he gets every year that he is deserving of. So in conclusion, during the course of my recording this story, it looks like the police have been able to ascertain an image of the shooter from one of the people on the subway. Apparently, he is a heavy-set black male, once more about 5'5". He was seen wearing a gas mask and some type of vest, perhaps green, perhaps orange. He is still considered to be at large, and this is not the first time that we've seen violence erupting on the subway. Just recently, there was a woman who was shoved in front of a train and died from her injuries. There have also been a number of attacks on Asian people and then also people from the Jewish community there in New York City. Either way you slice it, crime has increased to an exponential degree, and that is due in large part to the fact that the police officers and the precincts there have been defunded. The incident that took place today is tragic, and no matter how it occurred, you can bet that the mainstream media and the government, both the federal and state government there in New York, are probably going to use this as an opportunity to ban extended magazines. The fact that they found those 3 magazines there, the fact that he decided to just ditch all of his weapons in the midst of all that chaos, that was not a very smart move. It's going to make it a lot easier for the police and the authorities there to find this guy and probably identify exactly who he is. Hopefully he gets caught, but hopefully the media and the government is not able to spin this into a narrative which is going to allow them to put even more restrictions on the types of firearms and accessories we're allowed to own for our own personal use. It was only just yesterday that Joe Biden banned ghost guns, the ability, as they're so-called ghost guns rather, but the ability to purchase different components and put your own gun together without having it serialized ahead of time. Now, everything will be serialized. They're not going to stop you from being able to own guns, but this is going to make it more difficult to make custom guns. I'm sure that people are still going to find a way, and I don't think in the end Americans will have to give up their firearms, because if that ever happens, well then, my friends, all will be lost. I want to thank everyone for joining me once more. Please pray for the people of New York City, everybody who was injured in this horrific attack, and pray that they catch this guy very soon and that he's a registered Democrat. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. My name is Zach Payne, the corruption detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.